This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 927, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you. I'm aging hipster Connor Kilpatrick, and this is my co-host, aging hipster Josh Flanagan.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 927.
If you get that, Connor, as a person who is not known, and I hope this isn't offensive, for impressions, I was right there with you.
Thank you. That might be just for us. That might be just a joke we did to each other, not on the show.
I mean, I feel
sometimes it's just for us.
I feel like maybe this requires some explanation because we're just wasting everyone's time.
All right, we're giving a tribute to the great Lewis Dodley, New York One anchor. Josh and I both lived in New York for a long time. We watched a lot of New York One. We used to make Lewis Dodley jokes about him narrating our deaths.
And that's where the aging hipster thing came from.
Aging hipsters found dead.
Aging hipster run over by in Brooklyn today.
And he retired this week after decades at New York One. So if you're a New Yorker and you listen to this, you might know who we're talking about. But
did you fall into the trap of trying to look up his age and being completely stymied by the lack of information on it?
Good for you, Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how that guy kept the internet free of his actual age, but
every week one of us picks the books we like the best from their stack of comics. We call it the Pick of the Week. We're going to talk about that book. That books of the week.
Pat Kiernan gets all the attention.
Lewis Dodley was the spine.
Oh, the laconic calm. That's the way to go. Anyway,
I love Pat Kiernan, but Lewis Dodley was awesome. Anyway, we're going to have fun. Here's your spoiler warning. Exercise some caution. This week, Josh, you had the pick.
I had to look just now to see what it was. The pick is I'm very tired. The pick is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, number 6. This is the last issue of this miniseries. Number 1 was also pick of the week, where former full-time iFanboy and occasional guest star Paul Montgomery made it to pick on a week that Connor was gone. I know you're thinking there was a week that Connor was gone, and I'm like, I know, it's shocking, right?
Wow.
This was a 6-issue miniseries written and drawn by and colored, basically completely made except for the lettering, by Patrick Horvath.
Was it supposed to be a 6, or was it like a canceled book, or was it like a full story?
No, 6-issue story. Lettering by Hassan Asmani Al-How.
IDW.
Basically, IDW. It is the story. It's an anthropomorphic town. Everybody's different kinds of animals. I was going to say protagonist, but protagonist like Dexter is the protagonist. Protagonist still works.
Protagonist,
it doesn't mean good guy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is a vicious serial killer bear lady. And we find out that there is, in this nice little town, there is another serial killer, and this is sort of about them, sizing each other up and having a showdown, and this is kind of where it ends.
Serial killer versus serial killer action.
Yep, but in like very cute animal Richard Scarry verse. It's messed up, and I think I remember when the first one came out. I kind of looked at it. All right, I try to give number ones a shot, and you're watching the town, and then the woman, the lady bear, viciously dismembers like graphically on the page, like a random person that she picks up in the city, Jeffrey Dahmer style. And I thought, I don't know what to think of this, but because I don't normally like stories like that, but it was so expertly rendered by a person who I don't know. We've talked about this a lot over the past couple of years, is that these people will come out of nowhere, seemingly, and just have fully formed comic book skills, which you and I also know, like, that takes time, that takes reps, it takes effort. And I really got to the point where every time one of the issues came out, I was really looking forward to it. It was like a good old fashioned. It came out once a month, when it was supposed to. 6 issues, 1 complete story. And this was the finale, and I almost have come to expect to be disappointed in finales. I think comic books
endings are hard.
Endings are hard, and I think comic books are very good at the big pitch, at the high concept, and not so much good at the execution a lot of time. It's like 50-50, it feels like. And you kind of get by with, I really enjoyed that, for the most part, but this sort of culmination of this story is that, and I don't, we said spoilers, but I really don't want to go into too much detail about it because I don't know if a lot of people have read it, and I think it is worth reading on its own. I mean, like I made sure to, I haven't done this in a while, but I made sure gave all the issues to my wife because I was like, I think you'll like this a lot because she
Did
watches
you read them?
fucked up shit. No, not yet. I just gave them to her recently.
Oh, okay.
I think I gave them all to her just before 6 came out, and so she's got them all.
I do feel bad because you did tell me to read this, and I was like, yeah, I'll definitely read it, but I didn't. And I didn't mean to. It just didn't happen.
No, and I get that, but it was definitely one of those ones. Like we have weeks where, you'll be reading comics, and then one that's not necessarily going to be on the other one's radar. I'll be like, you should check this out.
Right. And when you made the pick, I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
I'll get to it. I will.
It's been really solid. Every issue was one of those things that you were happy to see it. It went by too fast, but in the best way. And it delivered, and at the end of the last issue, I was like, I don't know how you're going to resolve this, but the one serial killer who you like has to get the upper hand on the one serial killer who you don't like. There's like a bad guy and a good guy serial killer, and everything goes back to sort of balance, at the end, because you can't have two serial killers in a nice town,
Sure.
And the idea was kind of that she loved
you have nobody left in town.
Right. Well, that is a problem. She loved her little town, and she didn't want anything to happen to the people there. That's why she went out of town to do her business. And the fact that everybody was an animal didn't really have a heck of a lot to do with, they just were animals. It wasn't like, I'm like a tiger. Everybody, other people had that kind of characteristics of their, the mole guy couldn't see real well. All that sort of basic, old timey Disney stuff. Right. This issue specifically, and really it is all part of a whole, but sticking the landing and really doing a solid 6 issues. I love the, first issue's pick of the week, last issue's pick of the week.
Right. That makes sense. That makes they did the whole thing well.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, we have to make a pick, and I had no front runner, and I sort of looked at the books and I was like, oh, that's the one. I don't know that I noticed reading it. It's just so solid, but I was like, it did the job that it was supposed to. And every issue there are a couple of pages where you're like, oh God, what a horrible mind to think of this thing, and that happened in here. And there's, some
you almost
grisly
there for a second.
It happened in here. Grisly murders. A bird is stabbed in the neck.
It's funny because you keep describing this, and I know that this is not what the book is, but I keep picturing a bear getting cut up and stuffing coming out.
Nope,
but it's not
definitely not
bear,
stuffing.
It's a bear.
in the first issue, a duck guy is vivisected,
mm-hmm.
and the panels are a
that's
16.
How you get some delicious duck is you got to vivisect it.
A 16-page grid, basically, of this duck being meticulously laid out. That's what Dexter did, right? He was very meticulous and
I don't know. I watched the first season. I never watched past that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't get it. But in a way, this is a lot like that.
Yeah.
But it kind of has more charm. And when I say like Richard Scarry, Busy Town, I think is the one. It's even colored in this beautiful sort of light pastel watercolor kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Everything, has a there's no really bright colors. It's got a nice haze, of old timey Americana town. Red is very present. So the, not crazy bright, but the bad guy is always in red. So all the colors are a little bit muted, sort of, except the blood. And it's not even the blood's really bright. It's that it gets saturated, mm-hmm. More so. It really, I honestly, I looked Patrick Horvath up at the beginning of this, and he's got a couple of credits on IMDb. They may be short films, or it's hard to tell anymore if somebody worked on something real because there's so many things. But just excellent storyteller in comic book form, excellent watercolor artist, great plotting, timing, structure, pacing. I mean, it was a fully. I'm not like this doesn't blow me away, but it was so solid. It was so solid and so well done, and also it's in a genre I don't like.
Right.
You know, and
Well, that speaks to it, and I think
yeah,
it being a charming story of are they British?
no, I could see why you'd say that.
You know, anthropomorphic.
Did you think that Richard Scarry's Busy Town were British people?
I mean, sounds like it.
See, I didn't think they were, but now that I didn't seem to have that thing.
Well, I'm just saying I can see why you'd enjoy it because it's a little more. The whimsy takes the edge off the vivisection.
I think that's correct, and at the same time, though, it contrasts the vivisection, making it more effective in a different way. It's kind of curious as opposed to, just gross.
Right.
What a strange juxtaposition is happening here,
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I will get to it. I promise.
Yeah, and I can't ding this. I have no weak spots in this book. Right. You know what I mean? Like, there's no qualms. Well, there's this. I have nothing bad to say about it. Every issue, just a quality. You've heard us talk about it from the beginning. If you slept on that and you want to, like, it is worth getting as an adult. Don't give it to children. So the first few pages are going to fool you, and you're going to leave it around, and your 4-year-old's going to pick it up. Don't let that happen.
You'll have your own serial killer problem on your hand. So we're now deep into Blood Hunt. We had 7 tie-in issues this week.
I believe we can confidently say this is a crossover event.
An event? Yeah, I think it's spreading out to more than just the.
I didn't quite expect it to be in every book I read this week.
I read 6 of the 7 books.
Wow.
I would have to literally be infected by a vampire to read a Venom book. But I really liked it. I'm enjoying it.
I know.
And in fact, you didn't know this to be true because you made the rundown, but I would have made the Avengers 780 my pick of the week.
Really?
I don't know what's going on either.
Well, the reason that I put it here on the list is I liked it. But so I had just been expecting more of the Avengers, more of whatever the team is, the big city, and all those characters. And the first page is basically Cap putting out a call, and I read it and I was like, whatever. And then a couple of pages in, I was like, wait, who are all these characters? And I realized that they had like snuck in a new Avengers team without really calling much attention to it. And it's Cap and Quicksilver and
Hercules.
Kate Hawkeye and Hercules. And I was like, this is great.
What is her name again?
I have to
I keep wanting to call her Damage, but that's not right. Hazmat?
Yes, Hazmat. Yeah, from
I love this. I think partially because we just read the Kree Skrull War.
Mm-hmm.
And just the lineup reminded me of the pre-Bendis Avengers, right? Because Bendis came along and he's like, why don't the Avengers be all the main characters in Marvel? So that's when Spider-Man and Wolverine joined.
Like Grant did it.
Right. And so then after that, it became, well, why aren't the Avengers just all the characters from the movies? So then it became all the movie characters. We've been stuck in that forever. Although Jason Aaron did add a few outliers in his run, but mostly it's been the major movie characters. This felt like a book from the 80s, with a lineup of random, not random, but lesser tier Avengers. And Hercules and Quicksilver were Avengers in that period. So it felt very much like a throwback to that time. And I thought Jed McKay did a good job. C.F. Villa's art was kind of all over the place. There's a couple of panels I really didn't like, but there's a lot of it I really did.
So I had to check. Like I went back. I was like, did Jed McKay write this? Because it seemed like a different book. And not in a bad way, but I really liked the sort of reversal that he took. And then also C.F. Villa, like it's a name I know. I've seen it. I couldn't tell you what books he was on, but I don't think he looked like this. And I really liked this art. It was loose and light in a way.
Which made sense for the story, which was very,
but
high wire action.
This book is always, they always get a tight artist on this one. They always make sure somebody who can do, is more in the John Byrne, Neil Adams, rendered like strong lines. And this is a little more cartoony. And I really liked that contrast.
And so it's, they're battling the vampire breakout in New York, and these are the Avengers that have heeded Cap Steve's call. and that's fun. And then they get in the flying car to fly away because they're trying to ostensibly find the other Avengers who have been taken out by the vampires. And
I'm sorry, this is an important pause I'm
Yep.
going to take. Is the flying car the most perfect symbol for Gosh?
yes, it is.
The flying car is the thing.
The wheels turn out, they become repulsor things, and it goes
And
flying. And it's got a big
they're
A
always
on
like,
the
yeah, and they're always like old timey
like old
convertibles.
Chrysler.
Yeah,
It was awesome. And then they run into fucking vampire Nazis, and I was like, yes. And then that's when you find out that Cap's got a special vampire shield that's coated or dipped in silver, or rimmed in silver. And I was like, whoa. And then the cliffhanger, it's fucking Baron Blood, who I love. Baron Blood, the Nazi bat vampire creature who I first encountered in the Roy Thomas Invaders comics, which were mentioned in the Books Load this week. So, but I got to the final page and I was like, this is the pick of the week. I mean, I'm not discounting yours. But for me, I was like, this would have been my pick of the week. No problem. I don't know what's happening to me, but I'm full in on this vampire situation.
yeah, and yes, DC did it first.
And Marvel did it not that long ago.
Not long ago.
They even mentioned that in one of the books. I was like, we're doing this again? I was like, don't do that.
Well, no,
I
because
also
they did
really
that
liked
in the Avengers.
I really like Spider-Man a lot. I thought Amazing Spider-Man, whatever number that is, did a really good job of in the beginning, Peter thinking this was like a fun situation because he could actually like go full out against the vampires because they're monsters. And then by the end of it, he realizes, no, these aren't monsters. These are actually people who didn't want to turn into vampires. Like, I thought that was a really nice arc for Peter in the issue. And I thought the, rabbit getting turned and her, I guess, sort of boyfriend being scared. Like, I thought it all worked really, really well as a human story within it.
That arc of like scared henchman convincing Peter to come and do the right thing, and then the reversal that happened there was really, really well done. Right,
with the bodega owner. Like, I thought it was a really good issue. That for a while, until I read Avengers, I was like, oh, this is real. This might be the pick of the week. Again, it wasn't my choice. But
and the vampire guy who's like tied to he doesn't want to be a vampire.
Right.
Like, he's supposed to be the evil monster, and he's like, fucking kill me, please. Great
I thought
drama.
that was a really good issue. I thought it was a really good issue.
Yep. Just constant subversion of expectations.
They need to decide whether they're putting the Blood Hunt banner on the left or the top, because some books it's on the top and some books it's on the left. I really like the Blood Hunters issue, which was the anthology. One was Hawkeye story, the Clint Barton Hawkeye story by Mark Russell, where now Hawkeye 2 has a giant bushy mustache.
That's going to be his thing, is giving people mustaches, or just the blonde dudes anyway.
There's one point where he's standing on the roof in his full costume, except for the fucking mask. I was like, just give him the mask. Like, what are we doing?
Well, he's the mustache.
But I also liked the other stories. One was a J. Jonah Jameson story with Man Wolf, and one was a Cloak and Dagger or a Dagger story. I thought that was a fun one. Doctor Strange was good and important for the whole story. Dracula, I read mostly because I was curious what his role in this is, but didn't really give you any insight yet. But I enjoyed it. The one I didn't like was Strange Academy. I thought it wasn't very good, and it was the first issue of Strange Academy I've ever read that I didn't like.
Well, I looked up the team, and I was like, nah, this is a Scotty book, and it's not.
It was a total miss. You didn't need to read it. It didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good. But overall, I was into it. I read them all in a block. I read them all together, and I was like, oof, I'm really into this story. So good for them.
I think the one thing I noticed is that Doctor Strange, and I didn't expect these to be in any of these books. And they are, and I'm fine with it. I just didn't realize it was going to be this line wide of a thing. And at the beginning, Doctor Strange, he was stabbed at the end of, was it Blood Hunt? Yeah, the first.
Yep. Blood Hunt number 1.
And so we pick up exactly at that moment, and he's actually we pick up a little before that moment, which is smart because it's going to tell people who didn't read that. Yeah,
same dialogue.
But what I found out last time was that there's 2 versions of that Blood Hunt book. There was a regular one and a red band one. I'm making the jerk off motion with my hand. Not because I'm aroused, but because I think it's stupid.
I just think you're super into vampires.
Yeah,
They're sexy.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a thing. So in the Red Band one, Doctor Strange gets sliced in half.
Right. I don't understand the point of that. I had the same thought when I read it. I was like, well,
And in this, he was stabbed. So is that if he spun off? That's not the same continuity.
they just bifurcated it's a multiverse situation.
You're damn right.
There's a Red Band for number 2 as well, so we'll see who gets cut in half in that one.
Blade as a bad guy makes a lot of sense because he is a vampire, but they've spent half vampire. They've spent, the last 30 years like really convincing us of his inherent goodness. Like he fights the vampires no matter what, and you never doubt him. And so when this happens, and I had read that miniseries, the Brian Edward Hill miniseries really set this up. Like that's how this turn can take place. So yeah, it was nicely aligned, I thought.
I think it's good so far. I mean, we're only on week 2, but so far so good with Blood Hunt right now.
I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm kind of not. It's the things that you don't expect to be good. I was just saying, I'm not
DC versus Vampires. I don't know how long it's going.
Sure.
So, there's always a chance it spins wildly out of control, but
you remember the King in Black?
Right.
There were a ton of great spin-off issues.
There were.
Like a lot. And it's the same thing. I mean, basically every time it's world's on fire, bad guys everywhere. And the whole time I was thinking, I was like, they couldn't do anything about this. If there were really like vampires everywhere,
right?
There's like 30 of them. There's 30 heroes in New York. There's 8 million people. You're not going to make a dent.
No,
whatever. You gotta.
Well,
disbelieve.
But you did well. The solution in the Hawkeye book where they bless the water tower and then knock it onto the street
was good.
Was a very Mark Russell smart thing.
That was a new thing in terms of vampire eradication, which was very specific to the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood.
And I really liked that story. I really liked that Hawkeye created this like ragtag team of people in the neighborhood. So there was like the construction worker, the priest.
It's building people.
The other random person, but they all had skills. Like that was a fun story. I really enjoyed all those Blood Hunt ones. Transformers number 8. I did feel a little bit like we got to get moving on this book.
See, I felt like I thought this was the best issue in a while because things moved in terms of we got really interesting characterization and stuff that is happening between Carly.
All of it was great. Totally.
But then at the same time, like we also like we like ditching Starscream and having, the Soundwave like do stuff, and also the very different. I just found I feel like a jackass talking about it like this, like a very different perspective of the Decepticons sort of strategy and leader, because
they're into their inner children.
Well, like I've always wondered, especially when I was younger, like, well, what are they about? Like, I know what Cobra wants to do. They want to take over the world, but like, is there a context which the Decepticons are not evil? Like, what's their purpose? Do they think they're evil? Are they just fascists and they're trying to bring order?
Sell toys.
I know.
I really did like the scene with the USS Henry Harrison where they attack and there's one scene where they're just like casually pushing the planes into the water. And I was like, oh man, that's a lot of money you're throwing in there. And then the one Decepticon lets them all escape on their boats. Like they don't need the people. They just need the boat. And so there's like a whole flotilla of escape, rafts with all the crew on it. And then Soundwave's like, what are you doing? And he just like nukes everybody. I was like, oh shit. Like that was a really
Soundwave is the one who let him go. He's like, I don't know why we need to kill them. And then
no, it was the jet guy let him go. And then Soundwave killed
you're
them
right.
all.
You're right. Yeah.
And then then he kills them all. And I was like, oh shit. And then all the
but
characterization stuff
necessary.
is good. I just feel like we haven't really moved super far, although we're getting there, I guess.
Well, we had movement here in the like they switched leadership over there. They take the aircraft carrier down to power the ship that's underwater. Pieces are moving around. There's a really cool thing with Jetfire, who was almost destroyed, and they brought him back, and he can't transform and he can't see. He's literally just a plane.
Right. Yeah, no, that was good. And then there was like the crazy, really bad Decepticon who they had in like Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
And he gets out. And I think it's the first time anyone has said Megatron out loud. Is that true?
Yeah, something
I
like
don't know if
that.
that's true or not, but it felt like it. That he was like, "Where's Megatron?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Like,
there's the intranecine Decepticon fights going on.
they're the same as Cobra. Cobra spends most of his time fighting each other than fighting G.I. Joe in the comics.
Um, like Democrats.
Whoa! What anyway, I did like it. I'm just saying, I need, we're now in the second arc. Let's do something. Let's get there.
This, I know what you're saying, and when I sort of look at it like this, I can see like they were all sort of in their place, but it constituted movements. It constituted pieces being set up and move around, and us getting to know the characters a little bit. That we get some backstory to RC. Is that
Like they're all still basically trying to repair each other.
Yeah,
which is what they've been doing for the last 8 issues. So it's like, let's
There were
repair
some
each
really
other
big
and move
fights.
forward or something. But like, we're still doing the thing where we can't repair. We're having the same conversations about not being able to repair. So that's what I think it feels like. It's still
Makes sense.
sort of treading water, but the water treading is interesting. So,
and also I think was this Jorge Corona's second issue?
yes.
I think he had some storytelling stuff in the last one that didn't quite work, but I thought this one was really solid.
Yeah, it was good looking.
I don't think you could ask for a bet if you're going to stick with the Daniel Warren Johnson style, and he's not Daniel Warren Johnson, but it's a pretty good follow up. If somebody else has to do it, like he's got the style. Astro Train. He turns into a space shuttle and a train and a
That's
robot.
right. That's right.
That was his thing. And apparently he's fucking nuts.
He's the Joker of the universe.
Little preview of Scarlet in the back of this. I don't think I read that. We did read the Energon Universe one, but it's not on here, so we didn't get to talk about it. But there was some good stuff in there too. That was actually very relevant to the stories, specifically with Megatron.
So how many weeks have we ever had a double Jorge Corona week?
The double Jorge Corona. Ain't No Grave. Do you have a Johnny Cash song in your head now? With that chain sound that Rick Rubin put in? I love that.
Number one from Image Comics, Scotty Young, Jorge Corona, Jean-Francois Beaulieu,
so
and
this
Nate
is
Picos.
the Middle West and the Me You Love and the Dark team.
Right.
On
They're a
their
good team.
Third book. 3 extremely different books, by the way.
Totally. A horror book, a fantasy book, and now a Western.
Yeah. And you think Middle West was a fantasy book? I guess it was.
Totally. Look at this steampunk fantasy world, yeah.
It was a quest. I didn't know what it was going to be. It's ostensibly a Western, but there's
ghosts. There's ghosts.
Is it ghosts? Is like an afterworld, like it's like she goes into hell or dreams dimension or something. It's starts off. It's kind of the Unforgiven, except the William Money is a lady. She's a mom, and she finds out she's really sick, and she's like, I'm leaving. And then they're like, you can't. I don't want to see me like this. But really, what she's leaving is to go to some sort of underworld, and where she visits, death. And has to, she wants to try to find a way to cure herself, and that's always a problem. I don't know exactly what I thought about it. I really like that Scotty, it just keeps doing different kinds of stories. I'm finally almost shaking the idea that he was an artist, and it just is now a very sort of varied and interesting writer. And for the most part, successful. But like, it's almost like the things that you don't like, and this is more you because I pretty much read all of it, but I don't love all of it. But the things you like aren't because they're better than the other things; they're just different kinds of stories. So you're like, oh, I don't want to read this kind of story,
right? And his versatility is very, very impressive. Not a lot of writers that we read regularly do as many different genres. Usually, people stay in a final lane. It's successful and stay in it.
It's kind of shocking too, is that like he works with artists who kind of they don't do him, they don't do his style, but they do live in his sphere of art style,
right?
Jorge Corona, on its own, you may not think of Scotty exactly, but you can see the work with Scotty's name there. You go, okay, I can see the connection there. I see why those fit. Whoever is drawing, I can't remember the name. Brett Bean, I think, is drawing. I Hate Fairyland, and it's just like I feel like Scotty started a school of people. Nobody in mainstream comics looked like Scotty's work. when he started doing comics. And now there's like he's got a little cottage industry of people working for him, so he doesn't have to draw interiors all the time. It's great. I respect it. I'll read the next one. I was glad to see it.
I didn't love it, but I was interested in it.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. The Boy Wonder book 1 from Black Label is I have a couple of thoughts on this. So number 1, this is a Black Label miniseries, so it's out of continuity. About the Robins with Damian in the center. First thought is that so it's written and drawn by Juni Ba, his name I don't know, but he's the artist and the writer. Terrible cover. Really terrible. I like the art a lot inside, but I'm sort of shocked at how bad the cover is.
Yeah, I gotta look it up.
It's not even a bad drawing. It's just a bad editorial decision. It's a black and white cover. It's like a church where the statues of the Bat family, but Damien's in the middle. He's the only one in color, but he's wearing this demon mask. You can't really tell it's him. This would not stand out on a shelf. This does not stand out on a digital shelf. You don't know what you're in for. I mean, it's a book about him trying to find acceptance within the Bat family as a Robin, and they should just be all the Robins on the cover. Just sell the book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just weird. Anyway,
it's a nice image.
It's not a bad drawing. It's just a bad cover.
Mm-hmm.
Opens up, title page, Darwin Cook quote.
Hey, now.
We're raising the bar here. The quote is, "They are, in the best sense of the word, childlike. It is the very essence of the term superhero." Now, we know from spending time with Darwin that he thought all superhero stories should be YA. Not YA, but all ages books. That was his...
That's how Dad did it.
That was his thing. This is definitely a YA book, and it edges a little bit more towards the young side of that. I don't have a problem with YA comics. I don't have a problem with YA stories. I think
YA is Black Label's kind of interesting because that's not what that is.
That's the surprising thing. It doesn't fit the sort of more mature milieu of Black Label, but this is definitely more in the YA side, which doesn't mean it's bad. Just that's what's surprising, and I enjoyed it well enough. It's like I said, Damian feeling the weight of the other Robins, and it's sort of like, it seems like it's a 4-issue mini. It seems like it's every issue is a team up. So the first one he teams up here with Dick. The second one is because he's going to be teaming up with Jason. The third one with Tim, and then probably a team up with all 4 of them for the 4th issue. But it was fine. I liked the art. The art was fun and cartoony. In this one, Dick and Barbara are married and seem to have a kid. Alfred's still around. Bruce is off on a mission. That's why it's all left to the Robins. So it was good. I just was bizarre choice for cover, and also surprising that it was so YA. Even though in the book there is one of those Dick jokes where he calls him Dick but means Dick, which was surprising considering the tone of the rest of the book. But I liked it.
That's good.
Yeah. So, Fantastic Four 713, where Ben and Johnny get jobs.
Yeah, my only note here is that there was a certain point in this. Basically, they Ben and Johnny get jobs, and they each compete with each other like brothers to see who can be the best at the job. And in this, it is working at a grocery checkout. And it was, I want to say, halfway into this book, and I was like, I think this is just going to be about this. I don't think there's going to be a superhero turn.
Yeah.
And then I was rooting for that
Right.
because it almost never happens.
Right.
And it is what happened. And it was fun and stupid. And it was almost like Ryan North finally taking it easy for a bit.
I thought it was great for the reasons you said. Like, how often do they allow the stakes to be lowered to this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where literally it's just a competition about who can be the best checkout, worker at this grocery store, and who can be the best rated amongst the customers, and who can do it fastest. And there is a couple of moments of peril, but one where a guy tries to rob the place, and one where a reporter comes to really fuck up Johnny. But
it's not the mole man.
They're
it's not
low
Doom.
stakes peril.
Yeah. And then
at the end, there's like a creature attack, but it's so like in the background.
Yeah, but it's just almost there to remind you of what these guys did.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, that's who they are. It wasn't like it wasn't a twist. It wasn't like the grocery store owner was the son of Satan.
No,
you know,
right.
and I,
Oh, he
I
did fire
really
them.
liked that. But he had to, you know, and it was just like, guys, I'm really sorry. And you were like, yes, that's reasonable. Um, and so that was fun. I was shocked that this was the one book that wasn't Blood Hunt. They were like, next month, Blood Hunt. I was like, no shit. All right.
Yeah, I think that happened in Captain America too.
Yeah. Oh, I stopped reading that.
God, that's so bad.
It's, yeah. I think I did 2 of them, and I was like, this isn't getting better.
So those are the books we're going to talk about. It was an interesting week. I enjoyed my books, even though that there wasn't like a huge amount of standouts. Although I did enjoy several.
Mm-hmm.
But at patreon.com/iFanboy, every patron gets to vote to add a book to the rundown. This week, by overwhelming majority, the patron pick was Mugshots #1 from Mad Cave, written by Jordan Thomas, drawn by Chris Matthews, letters by Lucas Gattoni. And this is the second Jordan Thomas patron pick. Jordan Thomas is one of our patrons, and so they rallied for this book. And so, let's do it. Careful what you wish for, Jordan.
Well, like when it happened before the sort of last book, I feel bad about it, but I was like, I don't get it. It wasn't jiving with me. It wasn't. So I went into this one with a little bit of trepidation.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've got here is basically a British crime story, you know, done some of the style of Darwin Cook's Parker.
Coloring for sure. The coloring is definitely in that style.
Like aesthetically. I don't think the art was evocative of it, but it wasn't as straight up.
The art reminded me of someone who Tansi Zanjay.
Oh Jesus!
You know that I'm saying?
Yeah. Tansi Zanjay was a Vertigo artist.
Yeah, that's who their art reminded me of. But the coloring definitely evokes the Parker books. Yeah,
the story takes place largely in Brighton and Newcastle, and is a British writer, so it sounded better than when Americans try to write British people because we're not awesome at that. There's a guy, and he's a charming but bad guy, and his sins start to be revisited on his name's John. This isn't that far from a Constantine story that isn't magic.
So his niece is kidnapped in the opening scene, and he's called back home by his sister to find her, even though he was told by the crime lord of the town that if he ever came back it'd be trouble. So that's sort of the
sister was dating the son of the crime lord.
Right.
I'm not saying not the sister, the niece. And I really liked this. I thought one of my favorite scenes was that, like, you've got this guy who is aware that he's kind of a piece of shit. He says something to that effect in the beginning. He's like on a robbery, and he he's kind of a hard-edged prick. And then his inner monologue is just like, yeah, I know. But the second that his sister calls and says it's a problem, like, he goes back there to help. But then when they walk in the house, like, he's an asshole to his sister's husband. Like, he's horrible.
He doesn't like him. They don't like each other.
But like unnecessarily so, given the situation. And I thought that was really interesting and unexpected. So there's sort of an edge to the character that was defined really well when that happened, I think. Right. But it's also like there's it's a self-destructive streak, and I think it's important to see that in these characters because it's really easy to take an anti-hero, and make him likable. Yeah,
I mean he is somewhat likable, but he's also
he's charming. You're right, but like he's bad news, and it's really easy to fall for Tony Soprano's charm. Right. But you need to never forget that he's a sociopath.
So I like this quite a bit. I'm happy it's just a straight up crime story. I'm looking forward. I think it's a 4-issue miniseries, I think you said. There was one bit though that I got tripped up on the storytelling. It's page 7, Josh, on your digital reader, where we're in Newcastle, where he's on that quote unquote job. It's not really a job, but we think it's a job. And he and this guy have broken into this place, and they're ski masks, and it's all dark on the top half of the page, and in the bottom half of the page, the lights are on, but there's nothing to tell us that this is the same room. There's been a transition. There's no click sound for the lights turning on. Like, we're meant to know that there's trouble because the lights are on, but we don't know that we're in the same space. I was very confused by that page. I was like, wait, is this a different place? And then it was like, nope, this is the same place, even though we're not being told. That's the only problem I had in the whole issue in terms of storytelling.
It's pretty minor.
Yeah, otherwise it was very good. And this is not a criticism; it's just something I thought while reading it. So this couple, their daughter's been kidnapped. They don't know who did it. It could have been someone in the gang. It could have been just a pervert murderer. Like they don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's not a criticism. It's something I thought about. On page 11, the parents, the sister of the main character, they're arguing while they brush their teeth. And it looks like a very sort of normal domestic situation. And I thought, man, if your daughter's been kidnapped, are you like even brushing your teeth? Like, are you so out of your mind?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you like stalking the streets of Brighton looking for, like, I don't know. I've never been in that situation, but it's something I thought of while I was reading it.
One of the things that's interesting about it is like there's a little bit of like, we'll see it. So you go through some horrible shit like that. And most of the time when you see it, they'll show them the mother specifically, but like they're so bereft they can't do anything. And
the brain is super adaptable to almost every horrible situation. So I get that part.
But then there's like these people that are kind of dealing with it. I think they're making food at one point. And I was like, I wouldn't be able to eat.
Right. I was like, wow, they're really.
No, he brings home groceries. That's what it is.
Right.
He comes home with a bag of food, and I was like, that's weird. And not weird in a like, you shouldn't have done that, but as a choice. Like that, let's assume everything is intentional, then they've made the choice that he went out to get something. By the way, which is a thing that I think people would do in order to act like things are normal. You would start to do normal things. I think that's a coping mechanism that would definitely happen.
Yeah, I just don't know if it happens so quickly, and I also don't know if that's why people bring so much food to funerals is because the family can't even think to make food. I don't know any of this. There's something I thought of while reading it. Not a major criticism, not even necessarily a criticism. I just thought about it. But otherwise, I'm very into it. The art is exaggerated, cartoony, but not so exaggerated. Like sometimes, like the British boss is like a big, almost kingpin-like neck dude.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not so exaggerated that it looks like silly. Just, it's cartoony. It looks good. I'm into it.
Yeah. I'm into it. I was really happy that it was just a straight up crime story. I love a British crime story. That's kind of my jam.
So, ratings on Mugshots #1.
3.85.
3.85. Interesting.
It was very solid. It was very enjoyable. I don't know if I got the hook yet that I'm in the 4 thing. I'm not into the story quite as much as I am into the vibe.
Right.
I can't, I like where we are here. These are a lot of my interests. I don't know that I'm far enough along. There are a lot of great things in here, but the main plot, I don't quite know where we are with it. Although I think he's covered a lot of ground, but I'm sticking with it though. I'm sticking with the 8.5, and yes, I will read the next issue.
3.9, just so he'll let me 0.01 more than you. I
said 3.85, so you got point.
So he'll like me 0.05 more than you.
You got 5 thousandths, 500ths more.
And I'm sticking with it if I can figure out how to get Mad Cave books. Because they're hard to get. It wasn't on Comixology or Amazon, whatever the fuck it's called now. So not easy. Not making it easy, Mad Cave. Thanks for being a patron. If you voted, patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron gets to vote on the Patron Pick. If you're a patron and you give it the $5 or higher level, what we do for you is we give you a superpower live on the show. And Josh does that now.
Pachyderm. Parentheses, James Siri, close parentheses.
All right.
That is how it's written. I was like, should I say? But it's there. So let's go over it. Pachyderm. Friends call him the elephant. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, hello.
Hello. If he finds himself in proximity, visual proximity to any costumed mascot at say a sporting event, he will take on he will become the realistic version of that thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
How close are we talking?
So like the Oklahoma City Thunder, he would now they have like a weird Wolfman thing, but he would actually turn into a storm. or
Right, but how close does he get to be to the thing?
like if if he can see the thing, like he's got to stay away from stadiums. Like he's behind the other side of the wall or whatever. But if he finds himself out in the world next to a mascot, I mean, you don't want to be in Philadelphia. I'll tell you that much right now.
So is this involuntary?
Yeah.
Oh, it's involuntary. Oh shit.
Yeah. He'll turn into that thing. Now, there could be ways to work this for your benefit. There could be things that are great about it. And let's say it lasts 8 hours. The change lasts 8 hours.
8 hours, okay.
If I was writing the story, then what I would do is say, like, there's a problem. And he's like, oh my God, I've got to get to the stadium so I can become a leprechaun.
So he's going to go find Notre Dame?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. No, I was thinking of the Celtics, but that works too.
That's true. Sorry, I wasn't thinking of the Celtics. I thought, oh, you're right. Another drunken Irishman.
He's not drunk. He carries a gigantic flag and he does acrobatic trampoline dunks.
Sure.
His name's Lucky.
Of course he is.
I've had long conversations about how much we think Lucky earns.
Oh, the guy who's doing it? Yeah.
Because he's like one guy.
Right.
You're working 8 months a year. It's pretty committed. You've got to physically train. You got to do that stuff. You got to pay him pretty well. Because he can't.
But not as much as you think.
I think that's correct.
Like even people who broadcast the games, like the radio people, they don't make that much, and they have to do every game. Yeah, and they got to travel.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it works out. So that's it. Anyway, so there you go.
So he involuntarily becomes the mascot.
Yep, sports mascot.
I'm trying to think of a weird mascot.
And it's sports, but doesn't have to be pro. I mean, he can find himself
high school,
at a college or a high school, and all of it. Oh fuck, I'm a hawk for the rest of the day now.
Good vision.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a patron, Pachyderm James Siri. Pachyderm James Siri is a great cowboy name.
I'd like to go ahead and point out to Ryan how that's how you do it when you come in with nothing when you're still reading the name.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks for being a patron. Let's dive into the emails. This particular email.
Oh yeah, blood.
This particular email has been in here for like a month, so we're finally getting to it. I'm sorry, but we're excited. Tyler F. I have a question I've been thinking about for about an hour. What 5 books would each of you recommend as a must to have on a pull list? I'm a lapsed weekly reader wanting to dive back in and know that not everything you consistently enjoy is mentioned every week. In other words, if you were only to read 5 books a month, what would they be? And this question is one that we used to celebrate the summer with every year when we would do our barbecue and email video show for July 4th. And this question was always one of the questions on it. Someone wrote in the first time, somebody wrote in the second year asking to do it again, and then became a tradition.
So somebody who used to be part of the community, a person we know, wrote to me out of the blue and asked me this question in February.
Yeah.
And so I actually...
You're ready?
I have a list.
I'm panicking because now that my comics are spread out over multiple apps, in the past I would just open up Comixology and scroll. And now I'm like, oh shit. So I'm panicking a little bit.
I'm trying to see if I want to make any substitutions. I'm going to give you the list I had as of February.
So let me just say, I'm going no minis. That's my own.
These are and I would say our rule is like currently being published.
Currently being published, not a miniseries. That's just my own difficulty rating.
I can't say like Beneath the Trees where nobody sees.
Right. I'm not saying Duke because Duke's over.
Okay.
And it was a miniseries. If I were to say all of the Energon books as one, that would be cheating.
How do you feel? And this is the meat of making a list. How do you feel about a book that you really love as compared to a book that most people would love? Which way do you go? Is this a list for you or
it's a list for you? It's a list for me. He says maybe you don't talk about all the books you consistently enjoy every week on the show. So it's got to be what you think are the 5 best books.
Okay.
It's got to be.
Okay.
I'm going to
I think
Are you going to do yours first?
I'm going to tell you what I had for February, and then I'm
Okay.
going to make substitutions because I think things
right.
have changed since then.
Okay.
Okay, I said Transformers,
Okay.
Fantastic Four,
Right.
Batman, Superman, World's Finest,
Okay.
Petrolhead,
Oh.
Sensational She-Hulk, and The Hunger in the Dusk.
Okay. Wait. Say them again.
Transformers, Fantastic Four. I have
Uh-huh.
six. I just realized.
Okay.
Transformers, Fantastic Four, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, Petrolhead, Sensational She-Hulk, and The Hunger in the Dusk.
All right. You
Two
have
of those are on hiatus.
You have while you were talking before, I was frantically writing things down. You named 4 of my 5.
Okay, nice. So it's definitely Transformers, Fantastic Four, Batman, Superman, She-Hulk. Those are you're saying. Okay.
So mine are, and this is not me combing through all the books I'm reading, because it's also important to know we didn't really talk about this last week. We talked about emails. We don't prepare for the emails.
Never have, never will.
We like to fly by the seat of our pants. So when you get questions like this, it's going to be only what I'm thinking about in this moment, or what I'm able to scramble and look through my pull list. Luckily, I have an app with all my pull lists on them. I've been scrolling through them as you've been talking, but I didn't prepare. I'm not saying this is definitive. I'm saying this is what I've got right at this moment. Fantastic Four, Sensational She-Hulk, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, Transformers, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. That's what I've got.
I am going to go with Transformers, Fantastic Four. I feel like I haven't seen She-Hulk in a while.
It came out a few weeks ago. It was She was on the space station. They went dancing, and then he was.
I'm gonna stick with She-Hulk because it has just been consistently good for years now. Yeah. I'm gonna say Usagi Yojimbo.
Ooh,
that has been one of my favorite books for a few years running. Sure. Now. I mean,
so what is Usagi Yojimbo kicking off the list?
Batman, Superman, World's Finest.
Ooh.
I think I felt like in the instance of that it's a good book, but I felt like I had to put a DC book in.
You don't have to, but yeah.
I know. I'm saying for the reason I did that. So, this is tough. I feel like there's a book I'm missing.
That's yeah.
For the 5th. I mean, I at the time I put Petrolhead, and I meant it. But they finished the 6th. They take their time to regroup. They'll put another one out, and that's a great book.
And Hunger in the Dusk also, right? Because it's off till the summer.
Yeah, same deal. Yeah. Then they're ongoing, but they kind of like went out of mind.
I forgot about it. You said it. I was like, oh shit, right, that book. I love that book.
Yeah, I'd go Petrolhead. I would keep that on there because I really think that was.
But it's not out right now.
It's ongoing. It's just. You would call it late, except they did it intentionally.
Right.
Like they're still working on it. It's an ongoing concern in the same way that, not Lazarus anymore, but
is that book still coming out?
I think Michael Lark is out there working on it somewhere. But what's the other one? His one about the Lady Space Marines?
Right, that just came out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but they took their hiatus to sort of get caught up. I would still call that an ongoing concern.
Yeah, it's tough. It just depends on how often it's coming out because it's really hard to call Lazarus an ongoing.
No, I think Lazarus. It's like there's a certain point where you're like, I don't think that not why Saga. You can't count. Like we're coming back. Sure you are. Like
I wish I could call all of the Energon G.I. Joes just G.I. Joe, like Duke and Cobra Commander, and then Destro and Scarlet, but they're not. They're separate miniseries because that's my favorite story right now in comics.
Yes, yeah, no, and I think that's what I kind of covered it with Transformers because that's going to be the one where the things happen that you need to know about.
I think She-Hulk last came out the beginning of April, so they're a little bit late.
That's fair.
Interesting.
Like 100%. Fantastic Four is sort of the first answer. Was it? That
was the first one. Literally the first one I wrote down. I wrote in this order: Fantastic Four, G.I. Joe, She-Hulk, World's Finest, Transformers. That was the order I wrote them in.
Yeah,
I didn't have to think about Fantastic Four.
No, I mean, like it's genuinely absurd.
So there you go, Tyler. If you're lapsed, it says something that 4 of the 5, Josh and I had the same one. So
yeah.
And if you're listening to the show and you think, hey, I like the sound of that book, give it a whirl.
Yeah,
give it a whirl.
Give it one.
It's a lot easier to just talk about it than to create all the graphic with all 15 books that we used to do for the video show when it was 3 of us.
I'll tell you what gets an honorable mention. Alien. Fantastic. Yeah, because we can't
I thought
do
about
we
the
can't
Batman anthology book, The Brave and the Bold, because that's probably the best Batman book. Other than
like we can't do Avengers Twilight.
No.
That's probably it's one of the best books being published right now. But
we're back in the age of the new age of the miniseries. There's just been it's just terrific miniseries after terrific miniseries.
I'm fine with that.
Because for so long there were none.
Yeah.
Greg from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As soon as James Gunn showed the first still of David Cornsweet as Superman, several of my normie friends wanted to know my reaction. It was as follows, quote, "There are way too many unnecessary lines. The blue is too dark and the color is stupid, but I like the Kingdom Come S," end quote. So my questions are, 1, thoughts on the new Superman suit? 2, what are your favorite page-to-screen costume adaptations? I've been thinking about the first question since Monday, May 6th, and the second question on and off since the first X-Men movie gave us those terrible black leather suits. So that's 24 years of thinking. That beats you, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll definitely give my opinion, but it's also just one still image. Now it's an in-camera still image, meaning it's taken from the shot of the movie. It's not like a publicity still.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it is in context and it is properly lit and all the things you don't normally get when you first see a costume. Mm-hmm. So that's cool.
Can we say villains?
I'm not trying to. It's not in motion. We're not seeing. It's still hard. It's still a single still image. So my gut reaction was disappointed. Was incredibly disappointed. It's if you have a continuum where one end of it is the Man of Steel costume and one end of it is Superman the movie costume, this is way closer to the Man of Steel costume than I thought they were going to go. I really thought we were going to get a clean slate here. But the aesthetic is still in that DC Man of Steel, dark, muted colors, extraneous design elements. For some reason, the fucking collar, which I thought we realized was a mistake back in 2011. I don't love all that stuff, but we'll see. I mean, I really was hoping we'd see something very close to Superman the movie.
I really do think
James Gunn would get it, but I guess not.
Like part of that just has to be the world we live in. Like that's what superhero costumes look like now, and so that's what is expected. I
get it. It's the whole Marvel, textured costume thing.
What I thought was interesting is that he's said the god awful X-Men movie costumes, and I don't think of them that way because I think that if that movie had failed, if they had gotten that wrong, history is very different.
You mean the costumes?
That was it. I mean, X-Men 1, that first movie is a huge deal. We had never seen a very successful, we'd seen Batman, but it'd been a long time. And, they tread the line. And I think that for the context of that movie and that time, I think they did the right thing. I really do. I don't.
Yeah. I don't think you get people to go to a movie where Wolverine's wearing yellow, whereas opposed to this summer, he's wearing yellow and everyone's excited because you've got 20 years of context, people getting used to the idea of superheroes in garish outfits. Back then, if they'd been in the comic book costumes, it would have been a much harder sell. For like when I went with my coworkers, I distinctly remember going to see that first one. They were not comic readers, and I don't think they would have gone if it had been like Jean Grey in a green miniskirt and yellow mask. I just don't think that would have happened.
I agree.
They would go now, but they wouldn't have gone then.
Yeah, and it's fine. And in that same context, I don't really love the overall thing that the Marvel movies do, but it is that now. Like there's an established, so like the costumes have to look like they fit in that world, and there's a reason that they do is because you have to believe it, and it has to be grounded in a way. And wearing something that looks like tights, it's not going to fly in that realistic way.
No pun intended. I mean, look, my opinion might change when in the movie he's terrific and the tone is all spot on and it works, you
Yeah.
know. But why is there a collar? I just don't understand
You
that at
can't.
all.
You can't. These guys. Well, listen. There's been a lot of vampire stuff going on, and you gotta. Do vampires count as magic?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Superman's definitely gonna want a collar.
I'm not. I don't hate it. I was just disappointed. That's all. I don't hate it. I was just disappointed.
Yeah, I went with instead of the costume looks like costumes look,
Right.
and whatever. Ultimately, that's not super important to me if the rest of it works. I liked the aesthetic of the thing, the sort of work a day. And I was like, oh, he's just pulling his boots on, something's going on. And of course, then I look and like there's complaints. Like, well, there's stuff going on. What's he being so slow? And I was like, he's Superman. He moves really fast, and there's like a little. And maybe this isn't good, but I think it's human in this, and I think there's something you can do with it. There's a slight world weariness there,
Right.
or at least a time to make the donuts kind of thing going on, and I like that because that's a new take. That reminds me of Samaritan, the first Astro City issue.
Maybe he's super tired and he had a late night. It's like, oh, fucking aliens again. I don't know. It wasn't what I was really hoping to see, but it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen.
No, it could have been worse. I mean, it's not the John Peters black,
right
thing.
Right. I don't know. I was hoping for something more closer to Reeve, but I understand what Josh is saying is correct, that this is the look of superhero costumes, and so it is what it is. We'll see.
Yeah.
And again, maybe this is just one of two costumes or three costumes, or maybe in context of him in the screen it's different, but it's just always better as this one image to go on.
If you remember that first Captain America movie, like he went through, there was different phases, so you sort of got to see little of everything.
The first costume wasn't that great.
Nope.
In the first movie, but then they got it. No, it wasn't great in the Avengers movie, and then they went back to the World War II one wisely.
All right, so the second part of the question is, what are your favorite screen costume adaptations?
Christopher Reeve's Superman costume.
I know, I know for you and probably me, it's the first one, but
that's
also an easy one. So like it's easy for us to accept that or whatever. So like the more challenging one is we're in the modern age, and you got to think about which ones they've done that you thought worked pretty well.
So I can't say the last 2 seconds of the most recent Spider-Man movie where he's wearing the actual comic book costume and not the movie costume.
I mean, you kind of can. That movie is a very good example of like everything about it works so well that I almost find myself like I don't care that he has the Iron Spider costume.
Right.
Like that's silly, but like in the world, he has the internship at Stark.
Right.
Yeah, he'd have that. That makes sense.
I think Marvel, the Marvel stuff gets it pretty good, as good as you're probably going to get, like as Josh said, without all wearing spandex. So I think Cap's World War II costume is really good. I think,
Black Panther's a great costume.
Black Panther's really good. I think Doctor Strange is really good.
Doctor Strange's is great. I mean, I think that the thing that sort of leads the way on this, the first Iron Man,
right?
Like that was straight out of the comics at the time, but that's a great costume. It still is. Like you watch that first movie, and you're like, well, they nailed that design.
Bucky's Winter Soldier costume. I like the Vision. Like the Marvel.
I really like the Vision.
Hawkeye aside, although it got better as they added more elements in from the original costume, like they gave him the Robin Hood sort of look towards the end, but still no mask. But for the most part, Falcon, looked good. I don't like the Falcon Cap costume, which has nothing to do with the movie. It's just I don't either.
But like they did a really good job of taking it from the page to the screen.
Oh no, like it's a total reproduction. I've discussed this before. I think Cap's primary color should be blue, and on that costume it's white, and I just think it's the wrong color for him. I'm trying to think of non-Marvel. I've never loved
the Boys does it great.
Batman look.
I've never liked any of the Batman ones.
I mean, I like Batman as a ninja or a armored ninja. I've never loved. Ironically, it was the Ben Affleck Batman's the closest to the comics we've seen.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Obviously the Batman 66 are right on the money for Silver Age. I love those. Everyone on that show and that movie looked terrific. They're not bad. Like you said, do I love the Wolverine, the X-Men black leather ones? Not really, but I understand why they did it.
Deadpool's a good one.
Deadpool's right on the money. I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah, it really is a question of like, is there any of the DC ones that are worth a damn?
The best modern DC one is from the Superman and Lois TV show. In a flashback to his early days, he's wearing a costume straight out of the 1930s and 40s, and it's like it looks like the Reeves suit, but with the black background and black belt, like the 40s Superman had. That's the best modern one.
In the films, is there any in the films?
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That might be it. I mean, Aquaman. He's that's pretty much straight on. He's wearing the orange and green.
Except it's Jason Momoa.
But Flash is pretty terrible.
Yes.
Although in the movie, the solo Flash movie, he had something closer to the comics than in the Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Hawkeye. Dr. Fate looked good in Black Adam. Hawkeye looked pretty good. Hawkman, I mean.
Shazam
wasn't
okay. Terrible.
Yeah, the Shazam stuff. Mary Marvel.
I mean, I know it's not exactly the costume, but like he looked right. Like the actor, the casting of it was perfect. In the same, so is Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill's great.
Oh my God. I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. So when I saw the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, he's the star of it, and he's terrific in it. He's a movie star. You can't take your eyes off him. And I just kept thinking, he just looks like Superman. Like even in this movie where he's got a giant handlebar mustache and like a beard, he still looks like Superman. And he just got saddled with a director who hated everything about the character he was playing.
And you could see, I'm projecting a little bit, but you could see that guy was like, if this was right, I'd make a great Superman. Like you could see it.
He is a great Superman, and just unfortunately he got picked by the wrong director to play Superman.
Yeah, they got that part right, and then very little else.
He's a movie star. He's really good in that movie.
Huge nerd.
I think talking to you, I think they mostly get it right.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I liked the original Daredevil suit in the show more than the final suit. Mm-hmm. The original suit being sort of like the homemade black one.
Yeah.
Even though it's not at all accurate to the comics. I think we talked about this on the podcast review we did of Daredevil, but like the silhouette was so interesting and it was so different than the rest of the superheroes that I was picturing him on the Avengers and looking like that as opposed to wearing the suit that everybody else was wearing. I thought that was interesting, but the final costume's not bad. I just liked the original one better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Miss Marvel's suit is good. Captain Marvel's suit is good.
Captain Marvel's suit is fantastic. I love her. They do a good job role. Her as Captain Marvel made me a bigger Brie Larson fan. Mm-hmm. Like I really like her as that. I really wanted more of it than we got. I think in the context of like the universe, I think it's fun because she makes such a good. I'm not talking about the same thing anymore. I'm sorry.
Sorry, you got to.
We watched Trainwreck, and she plays. Amy Schumer's sister in that, and I was like, she's so good. I don't know what it is about her. I can't quite tell, but
what is it? What is it about her?
She's fantastic.
Anyway, I think we've discovered through this conversation that they tend to get it right more than they get it wrong.
Yeah,
which is I think why people are really excited about Fantastic Four and X-Men being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the Fantastic Four have looked pretty terrible in their movies, and the X-Men haven't really had a faithful translation. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go.
I don't know if this counts. I mean, they got the Hulk right. They got the Hulk really, really right.
Yes.
While he was still the Hulk.
Yes.
I mean, just full on.
In that first Avengers movie, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't, we talked about not really loving the current Professor Hulk, whatever we call him.
I mean,
Professor
it's cool.
Hulk.
It's cool, but not as the
overdone.
Not as like this the permanent state.
No. It was funny for a movie, but then it kept going.
Yeah.
Thanks for writing in, Greg and Tyler. They wrote into contact at iFanboy.com. You can too. And you can get on our Media Explode show. Although we don't have a dedicated email segment there. We occasionally throw them in when we're short, and we have seasonal mailbag shows there. So you can write in for Media Splode by putting Media Splode in the subject line. And so
there, are you happy, guy who wrote in last week?
It was Brad.
Yeah.
Are we? Last week we talked about how May is crazy with shows. We're going to have 8 shows in May, and the first one's already out, the first extra one. So this past week, we released our Booksplode review of Avengers Kree-Skrull War. It's the first time Josh and I had ever read the seminal Marvel tale from 1971. Roy Thomas, Sal and John Buscema, and Neil Adams. And that just came out right behind the show on the feed. You can find it. We had a really fun time talking about it. And hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And then this coming week, I know it because it's already in the can, is a special edition review of Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 of the Animated Brain Trust. Assembled. Ryan even went above and beyond and recorded from his car while on the road. Couldn't tell if I just didn't reveal it to you. He wasn't driving. Cool. He pulled over. It sounded terrific. Car's a nice little voiceover studio, so it sounded good.
It's true.
But that's coming. It's definitely coming next week.
And he got a good signal there, as opposed to the weeks.
That's coming this coming week.
Roller coaster ride that is his home internet connection.
Well, yeah. This coming week, that'll come out. And then what's next after that, I believe, is the Media Splode and then the Talk Splode at the end of the month, which is already recorded. Do you want to say who it is, or do you want to wait? What do you want to do?
Oh, yeah. I guess if it's going to be that far away, it's kind of unfortunate. But I talked to our friend and comics giant, Tom King. It's been a few years, and I was chatting with him, and I was like, "Hey, we haven't done that in a while. You want to?" Because this is just like anything; it's like your excuse to sort of talk to people who you like to talk to. I would hasten to classify it as an interview.
It's more of a chat.
It is a chat, but it's I can't think of another show that I've done like that in a while.
Nothing wrong with that chat.
I think people will really enjoy. Well, I know a story now, so you got to work. But it's just
you
great.
Read comic books.
I'm sorry that it's so far away now. But
well, we can swap it with the Media Splode again. We can produce live on the show. We don't have a topic for that one yet. So
okay,
let's talk about it later. It's not set in stone. I'm not setting those dates in stone, other than the special edition stuff that's coming out this week. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the month, if you're a patron, the patron hangout is May 24th. It's a Friday. It's kickoff of a Memorial Day weekend. Come hang out with us and chat about nonsense.
Nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, get over to iFanboy.com and you can find, I believe it's 1,370 some odd shows.
About that. Yeah.
About that. 1,370. Say those numbers and be me and look at where your life has gone. That stuff's it all lives there. And we'll take you to wherever it needs to be to see it in fullness. You can follow us at iFanboy.comics on Instagram. You'll find out what the peak of the week. The peak of the week. In a way, it is.
Comics on Instagram.
I may have. I'm very tired.
That's fine.
You can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. Sometimes it's the best of the week in panels. We're posting. You'll know when the show comes out. If you hadn't realized, obviously, if you're listening to this, you're all using devices to automatically bring it to your device, to your ears, but it'll remind you with a little clip that we found from the show. I like doing that. I don't like doing it, but I like having done it. It's
fun, but it's like when I'm editing now, I'm like, oh, now I got to remember where this conversation was that I liked.
Yep.
So, anyway, no one wants to hear our complaints. Subscribe to youtube.com/iFanboy, where you'll find. Oh, did I skip a part?
Say go to youtube.com. Or wait, no. Follow Connor and I individually. CS Kilpatrick and Jay Flanagan on Instagram. Don't look for a lot of comic stuff there.
Subscribe to youtube.com/iFanboy. That's where you'll find all of the old video shows, including all of the old comics and email and Grill and Meats shows where we would answer the top 5 comics questions. I encourage all of you to go back and watch those because they're incredibly fun. It was often incredibly hot while recording. We were drinking. We were grilling meat. Yes, we kept the grill open for aesthetic purposes. We don't need your emails. And then we ate a lot of meat.
I could barely work through it.
We ate a lot of meat afterwards. We were in our 20s. We could do that. And we also answered your emails. It was fun. The last one we did, I think, was the one at Ron's sister's house, and that was incredibly fun. That's the one we did like the Mount Rushmore of comics for like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. We kept doing different categories. It was a lot of fun. It was a hell to edit. A lot of fun. Anyway, what are we talking about? Oh, right. This show is also there if you want to listen to it on YouTube. We post this show there every week. And also consider leaving a star rating or a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. A thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe there. All those things. Whatever. I don't understand it, but the algorithm does, and that's the master we all serve. So, thanks for listening. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, all the stepmoms, all the grandmothers, all the MILFs.
Hey now.
What other kind of moms are there?
I don't know.
I don't know. If you're a mother, thanks. Thanks for being a mom. If you're a grandmother or whatever kind of mother, stepmother, all mothers are important. They're all important.
I just kind of wanted, I was like, keep going.
I could, but
I know.
This is what happens in the summer when it starts getting hot up here.
Yeah.
My
It was
brain's
warm in
cooking.
my room last night.
All right, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I had a headache before the show, but I don't anymore. That's the power of the show.
Hey, look at
That's
that.
the power of the show. Until next week, I'm Connor.
I'm Josh. Thanks for always giving everybody listening, giving me that dose of dopamine. Makes me feel good just like it does you.